everybody, this is the Mrs. Wolfie from My Half Acre Homestead. Today is October 25th and it is damp and chilly and it looks like it's going to rain today. So while I'm dehydrating potatoes, I wanted to make a favorite soup of my husband's for weather just like this. It's called cheese potato soup, real simple, and in this crock pot I have diced 2 to 3 pounds of potatoes and a minimum of a pound of onions. And into that I'm going to add some of my dehydrated celery, just a little bit, and a teaspoon of salt, which is already in there. Now I'm going to turn this on to boil, well, to high, and then later on when it simmers down I'll turn it down, and just before we eat I will make a cream cheese sauce that I will mix right in there. And believe you me, as simple as this meal sounds, it's delicious. Alright, we'll talk to you later. Okay folks, since we're having cheese potato soup tonight, I'm going to make some cheese garlic biscuits to go with that soup. Now I've got about, it's hard folks because I really never do measure, I'd say 3.5 to 4 cups of flour here, and I'm just going to add about 2 teaspoons of baking powder. That's how I sift that. Oh, I might give it a little bit more, just make sure they rise just nice. I'm going to do that, and we are going to add some garlic. I'm going to say about a teaspoon. You don't want too much of, if you're using store-bought grated garlic or dried garlic, use 1 teaspoon or 2 teaspoons, but that's my home stuff and it's really strong. Teaspoon of salt. Well, so I kind of measure, but I measure with my hands. We're just going to mix this up here. So we have flour, baking powder, salt, garlic powder, and of course, I don't know, what's that, a quarter pound of lard there. There's an eyelash in there. And I have already, I think I'm going to need more, but we'll reserve judgment until I see how this goes. You don't want too much lard when you're making cheese biscuits because cheese gives off its own oil too. So you don't really want. Now, got this newfangled kind of pastry cutter here, and well, it's not newfangled, it's actually a pretty old invention, but I used to do mine with just 2 butter knives. But I think I'm going to need a little bit more lard in there. So I'm going to say for this recipe about 1/3 pound of lard. And of course we have our home-raised goat buttermilk. Now when I make my buttermilk, I don't even know how I started making buttermilk. I think I started it with yogurt. But all I do is when I get down, when this jar gets down to about here, I just top it up with milk and let it sit, and then it becomes buttermilk. It's that simple. Not rocket science, and it's not expensive. So if you want to start your own buttermilk, you just go, next time you buy buttermilk, save a 1/4 cup, throw it in the bottom of a jar and add milk to it. Let it sit out overnight in a sealed jar, and it'll acidify, and then you pop it in your fridge and Bob's your uncle, you got buttermilk. Okay, I think I got just bag spot on with the amount of lard here, because see how it's nice in that pea crumbly kind of pea-sized crumbles. There we go, that's just right. Now I've got a bunch of cheese grated for my soup, so I'm just gonna put a handful of Monterey Jack in here. Oh, maybe just a little bit more. Whoops, that's a little bit too much maybe. And we're just gonna toss that in and coat it with flour, and then we're gonna make a well in the bottom. Now I'm gonna pour in about, I'm making a well in the bottom, and I'm gonna pour in, I'm gonna say about a cup of buttermilk. Now I already have my frying pan greased, because everybody knows good biscuits go in a frying pan. or skillet as my friends south of the border like to call it. And we're just going to work this gently in to the center. And if you find it's not doughy enough, then you just add more buttermilk. Like I've said many times, folks, cooking's really not rocket science. If we, it's like anything else. You depend too much on recipes. Now, I use recipes when I don't know what I'm doing, when it's something I've never done before. But after a while of doing something, you get a feel for it. You get to know what it looks like, what works, what doesn't. There we go. I think I should have put a little bit more garlic in there, but I'm going to sprinkle some cheese on top of this too. You should see my kitchen, boys, or folks. It really is a nightmare. But it's, I've got some more stuff put away today, and hopefully in the next couple of days, Howie will have the ceramic section down on the floor for the wood stove to sit on. Now, I think this is good. A little bit more buttermilk, just a splash. So I'm going to say that took almost 2 cups. So about 1.5 cups of buttermilk for this recipe. I have no idea how much cheese I put in there. Probably 1 cup of grated cheese. There we go. That's the ticket. Now, I don't like to mash them together too much. I like to plop one in the center, and then I make more and I work my way around from the center on outwards. Probably not how I used to roll them out and cut them out with a cookie cutter, but you know what? These come out so much flakier because you're not overworking the dough. And look, just the right amount to fit in this frying pan. I've got these in here, and these are huge biscuits, but I'm just going to press them down a little bit. There we go. Press them down a little bit, and I'm just going to throw some Monterey Jack on top. Alrighty, I'm going to pop these in the oven at 375 degrees, and then I'm going to make the sauce for the soup. We will be back. Alright folks, let's go ahead and make our cream sauce for the potato soup. Now earlier on you saw me put potatoes, onions, dehydrated celery, and some salt into the crock pot with some water. And in here I have about 1/2 stick of butter if you're American, about 1/8 pound of butter if you're Canadian. I've got 1/2 cup of flour. I've got my salt, my pepper, and of course my milk. And shredded Monterey Jack cheese. Now we're just going to melt this butter, and then we're going to brown the flour in the butter, and when we get to that stage we'll be back. Alright, so we've melted our butter, and we've added our flour, and we've browned it. I don't know how well you can see how nice and brown that is. And now that that's done, we are just going to add about 2 cups of milk. As long as we got enough for a cup of tea after supper, because I will get more in the morning when I milk my Busy the Wonder Goat. We're just going to whisk this until it starts to thicken. We'll add some salt. We'll add some fresh ground pepper. Bring this up to heat, and we'll be back when this is thickened. Now as you can see, my white sauce is thickening nicely. I'm holding the camera because I've moved my crock pot over here because you can never see it in the evening when it's over on the other side of the counter. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to dump this cheese in here now that the sauce is almost as thick as it should be. And then it's going to go right into the soup. And here we have our potatoes and celery and onions that have been simmering all day. Now it's okay if you mash your potatoes up, but my husband likes chunks. And so you can see that the celery rehydrated really nicely in the celery leaves. We are just going to take this wonderfully thick. Now I'm right-handed, so I'm just going to try and this wonderfully thick creamy cheese sauce. And we're going to pour that right in there and give it a stir. Now at this point you want your soup to be hot but not boiling, because if you pour the cream sauce into the boiling soup, it can have a tendency to separate. I'll show you when I've got a plate dished up for hubby. Alrighty, we'll be back after. All right, folks, here it is. The soup is all wonderful and ready. And I'm just going to check on our biscuits. They should be done. Oh, yummy, and yes, they are. So, I'm going to fix Papa up a plate of his favorite soup and biscuits, and we will be right back. Monterey Jack cheese potato soup and garlic cheese biscuits. Papa's favorite chilly weather meal. And there we go. The thumbs up from the Mr. Volpe.